Cool. We are recording. So welcome to another one of Spacebands webinar series. Today we are speaking to Rebecca Pick for our lone working webinar. Thank you so much for joining me today, Rebecca. Do you want to just give me a rapid introduction of who you are and why we're speaking today?
Yeah, thanks, Ronan. Thanks very much. Nice to be here. I'm Rebecca Pick. I'm the founder of Pick Protection, and we are a lone worker protection technology specialist. So we've been going for about 10 years now, protecting lone workers across pretty much every sector that you could think of, to be honest. We've got some great customers, including Santander, Majestic Wine, British Red Cross. And over those kind of 10 years, we've really picked up some really good best practice, top tips of how to encourage lone worker usage. So yeah, hopefully during, the course of this hour, we can pull out some of that best practice, some great tips, and just help to kind of share the knowledge in this space of protecting lone workers.
Cool, perfect. And how did you end up getting into the lone worker space? It's such a niche.
Yeah, it really is, and I really did just fall into it, if I'm honest, Ronan. It was when I was at uni and living in Glasgow. My neighbour got attacked. She was taking her bin out 5 o'clock at night, wasn't late, and there was a guy hiding in the bin shed. He dragged her in. She was shouting and screaming. She heard people walking past and nobody stopped to help. So I just thought we should all have something on us all the time that if we activate it, we know we will get a response. And this was at the time where there was kind of like pull pin alarms, and that was really it. And of course, if you hear one of those, are you really going to respond? And I'd done an internship at a security company. So I learned all about how intruder alarms on premises will, when they alert, will actually send the police to that location. So I thought there must be a way, instead of monitoring a building, that we can monitor a person. So came up with an idea that would be a wearable alarm that would clip on a brass strap. Obviously, my target market wasn't lone workers at the time. I was thinking more kind of university students on a night out. And it would connect through to an alarm receiving center, the same way that intruder alarm on a building works. And then we'd be able to record all the dialogue and get the police there to that GPS location. So that was very much the start of it, the idea that I had and kind of the vision that I wanted to get to, is getting something so widespread it would just become a deterrent. We raised the first round of investment and still worked on that product offering, but along the way learned all about this massive market of employees that work by themselves. Every 9 minutes in the UK, an employee is attacked whilst they're working alone. A really underserved market. When we spoke to health and safety managers, they weren't happy with what was currently on the market. And I thought, actually, we've got a massive opportunity here to get to these decision makers and get a few key people in a room, and they can make that decision to protect a lot of people all at once, which is going to really help us to protect a lot more people than if we took that route of going down the kind of personal protection and kind of chipping away at it very slowly. So that really is how we kind of fell into the lone worker market, Ronan.
So that was how many years ago? You said 10 years?
So we've been, Pick Protection's been going for 10 years. So that must have been like 11, 12 years ago now.
Wild.
Yeah.
And then at what point did you then make the shift from like a B2C offering, like a individual offering, to then deciding to do lone worker protection in a business case? Or is it just through the knowledge that you had gained in this entire process?
So that's probably a funny topic, because I was the last person in the room really that it dawned on that we just need to focus on the lone worker space, because my heart and soul was in personal protection. And that's where the idea came from and what I really wanted to do. And of course, I had investors in the business at that time that were kind of that step back, and they just saw the business case for both and saw that the marketing budget that we'd need. And I think it takes on average 7 times for somebody to see an advert or engage with a product before they actually buy it. And if we need a marketing budget to get every single person that we wanted to sell to see it 7 times, we would just not have got anywhere. Whereas the kind of more corporate route, you know who your buyers are, you know who you want to target, and putting forward that case to them, they can protect a lot of people all in one go. So everything about that kind of corporate lone worker side made sense from a business perspective. But it took me to go to MIT in Boston, where we worked through like creating a business from scratch just for the kind of theory of it all. And the teacher of it, a guy called Bill Allett, it was the 12 steps to disciplined entrepreneurship. really made you think, actually, you've only got a certain amount of resource. Do you really want to split it? And then you're not really going to kind of engage with either market as well as you possibly could. So I came back thinking, right, everybody else was right. All the investors were right. Got to make a decision, got to pick one. And it just had to be able to build a viable business, the lone worker market. And the more that I thought about it, yes, it was underserved. Yes, there was a massive market demand. And actually, we could provide a product that really helps to keep people safe. So once I made that decision, it was very hard. I'm really glad that that's the way that we went.
How did your neighbor take that decision? Because I guess the inception, they knew it was all from them initially, right?
Yeah, do you know, I actually never spoke to her. It was like a neighbor within the building, so I knew that it had happened. But to this day, I've never.
No way. This is actually
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. So then, what happened then next? So you then got back, and then you were using the same product offering or same service offering at the time, or you kind of literally started back at round one?
We literally had to start from scratch, because this lovely little alarm that I had that would clip on a bra strap just is not going to work for HGV drivers. It's not going to work for your classic lone worker. So as much as I loved it, we just thought it's not the right thing. Start from scratch. We can still take the basic kind of technological components of it, but we need to form it really so it's something that the form factor will work for lone workers. The more that we looked into it, actually, budgets are a massive issue for health and safety managers. So we need to make it as cost effective as we possibly can. And that kind of leads us more down the app route, so they're not buying extra hardware. So we really just sort of started from scratch and said, look, tell us what you want, tell us how it needs to work, what's important to you, how are we going to get people to use it, and just kind of built it from the ground up from there.
Crazy, we've gone on a very, very similar journey. But then how did you decide which business case to use? Sorry, how did you decide which audience to use within a B2B environment for your product? Like, which professions are more at risk of lone working issue? Like, how do you even?
So again, I mean, this was something that we really tried and tested, and we got wrong, and then we got a bit right, and we learned a bit more. So we started initially on local authorities and housing associations, just purely because they are the largest users of lone worker solutions. So if you think across councils, they've got social workers, housing officers, and people that work cutting grass. There's literally thousands of them across every council. So for that reason, we picked them. It is also the most competitive, though. It's also the most price sensitive. But we thought if we can make it in that market, then we can make it anywhere. So that was where we kind of cut our teeth, got some really good reference customers, case studies, and then started to expand out from there. So we see utilities is a really big market. Obviously, field-based engineers, they're out in remote rural locations. They're a big one. Charities as well. You won't believe how many lone workers there are across different charities and going out to people's homes. I could continue all day. Retail, there's literally, it's every sector, but we did take a sector specific approach. And now I've kind of got our top 5 that we focus on. But we do see that the kind of standard functionality in a lone worker solution, so an SOS alarm for any type of emergency, a proactive welfare check, fall detection, they kind of are, they cut across every industry. No matter what type of lone working you're doing, that kind of combination, and maybe using one more than the other, that really does kind of satisfy most of the risks that any lone worker would see.
And like 12 to 10 years ago, when you started this, how many alternative solutions were there available on the market? Obviously, technology has taken a huge surge in the health and safety space in the last 10 years. I mean, it's the reason we're speaking today. But
yes, absolutely.
What was the landscape like 10 years ago?
Do you know, at the time, I could have only really pointed to sort of 2 or 3 competitors that I thought actually they're serious in this space.
Yeah.
And now, absolutely, it's shot through the roof. We've definitely seen more and more players come into this market that, I could reel off, 10 right now, and then there'd be plenty more that I don't know about.
Crazy. So then why were you gunning so hard to go out on your own, or not on your own, but with your team for this as the venture, when there were competitors in the market already, or you knew that it was something you were passionate about, something that you could execute on?
Well, at the time, I say there's only kind of 2 or 3. And when we spoke to health and safety managers, they were saying this is an underserved market. They're saying that we've been tied into contracts for 3 to 5 years with these, bulky devices, they're expensive, nobody uses them, so we're paying for something that we're just not getting the value of. So that's when I was thinking, well, absolutely, there's space for us to come in with a more tech-based offering and then actually work with our customers to make sure people use it. So we won't just be like a double glazing salesperson. We'll actually like come in, figure out how people need to use it, and then through all the reporting and the metrics that we get from the system, we can see if people are using it the way that they're expected to. If they're not, what's that gap? Why not? Let's come in and figure out, do we need to do more training? Are there big brother concerns? What's the issue here? And then kind of help to nudge them along to be doing what they should be doing. So yeah, at the time, the landscape was completely different. Now there's definitely a lot more choice. But I still think in terms of the kind of two things that we offer, it is that kind of tech excellence, making sure it's a robust, reliable system for them. And then that kind of working with them, that kind of high user adoption piece is really where I think kind of pick protection fits in the market.
Sure. And how do you find the value of implementation of technology to resolve the pain point within lone working against the actual efficiency of the technology? In a sense, we have this all the time at Spacebands, where we're like, is it the technology that's solving the problem, or is it the fact that they're wearing something that then subconsciously they're like, okay, I'm going to pay more attention to where I'm at, or okay, I'm going to act in this way because Big Brother's watching, even though it's privacy first. But it's like what comes first, the behavior or the
it's that probably is like a chicken and egg thing, and if I'm really honest, I've got no idea. We can definitely see it puts it to the forefront of people's mind, especially as we've done a training session. We'll definitely kind of see a massive uplift. Then you'd hope that that kind of general safety awareness, safety culture is just improving across the organization for doing things like that. But we've got no data to say one way or the other, but I would really hope it has a positive effect, because they've got it. They're generally more health and safety conscious anyway.
As do we. But do you ever find that the fact that someone's wearing a lone working device can act as a deterrent in its own right, without the technology even serving a purpose for technology's sake?
So in terms of what we provide, we kind of focus more on the discrete side of lone worker protection. So a lot of it, when it's kind of customer facing, or you're going out into somebody's home as a social worker, you don't want a massive thing that says, I don't trust you and here's my device. You do want it to be a bit more subtle and discreet. So in terms of whether ours work a deterrent, they wouldn't, because you can't visually see them. But in terms of like the kind of video on stuff, I mean, even if I see him in a shop, I'm always on my best behavior, but it does make you more aware, doesn't it? Yeah. But no, I mean, I think, it helps serve the purpose that if people know that you've got a lone worker solution, obviously it helps. They know you can get a level 1 priority police response to that location.
Well, actually, speaking of the level 1 priority, what's the how does it work? Like, how does someone on the app, how does someone infer a level 1 response? Does it literally, they tap and then someone shows up 10 minutes later?
That's what some of our customers think, so they're very scared to actually use it. So we need to break down those barriers. But I mean, what a level 1 priority police response is basically, it puts you above the 999 queue. So and we all know how much the kind of police system, is taking a lot of pressure. They need a way to filter and prioritize what is the most important. So what happens with our system is a user will activate their SOS alarm either by pressing the app, double clicking a button, and that will open up a 2-way audio call to our really highly trained operators. So they'll start listening in, they'll be assessing the situation, and they'll be listening for, difference in your breathing, if they can hear a dog barking anxiously, any clues like that. We've also pre-agreed a duress word with the user. So if they need to covertly let the operator know that there's an emergency, they can say that phrase and then our operator absolutely knows. The system sends through the GPS location as well. So what we've got at that picture is the exact location of that person, and it has been verified as a genuine emergency by a highly trained and accredited alarm receiving center. That accreditation, that alarm receiving center has got an accreditation, and they hold, they're called unique reference numbers with every police force. And so because we are accredited as the lone worker provider, the way that we train our users, the actual solutions, and then the alarm receiving center, we all hold what's called BS 8484, that's sort of standard for lone working. That means they can then tell the police, we've had this alarm come through with this user. If we've got details of what they look like, we can give them that. We can give them the GPS location, and we can say, look, we've verified this is an emergency. So it pushes them at the top rather than a kind of unknown caller coming in. Trusted source says, yep, get yourself there right now.
Ah, cool. And then do the police then have to verify to send someone out a step further? Like
once our operators have said, yes, that is an emergency, I've heard a genuine either duress word, they've heard that there's a
or something
incident, they'll just send the police there.
Oh, cool. It is a fully thought through system.
We hope so.
Yeah. And have you noticed with like police cutbacks in recent years that like the proficiency to actually perform on an incident decreases, or it's still reliable?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, in the scheme of things, we don't have a huge number of police call outs per month. Part of that is that filtering by our alarm receiving center. So if an operator thinks actually that's not a genuine emergency, they can still call their escalation contact. So they can send a supervisor or anybody else that might just need to go and assist in a situation that's non-threatening. But in terms of the actual responses, because we do have that level 1 priority police response, we are put to the top of the queue. So I have to say we've not seen probably the dip in service that kind of general public probably have.
Nice. But actually, yeah, I had that even this question completely slipped my mind until you just mentioned supervisors. At what point does the supervisor step in when an incident? So will it come through the call center and then you can kind of choose between police or supervisor, or?
Yes, I mean it totally depends on the nature of the incident. So one of the most commonly used pieces of functionality in the app, we call it time at risk, and it really is just a proactive welfare check. So if somebody's about to go into somebody's home, perform a house visit, they can say, I'm going to be half an hour going to room 404 to see Mr. Smith, and he's got a history of mental health problems, whatever it is. Start their timer. At the end of that timer, their phone will alarm or their device will alarm for 3 minutes. If they don't confirm their safety by the end of that 3 minutes, it automatically escalates to an SOS alarm, opening up that audio, sending the GPS location. Our operator will listen in, assess what's happening. If they can't hear anything, obviously they can't then send the police because they can't confirm that that's a genuine emergency. Yeah. But what they can do is call their manager to say, look, we know that they've gone into this situation. We haven't had confirmation. Can you go and check on them, or send somebody to go and check on them? So it very much is kind of situation dependent. But in the case of a genuine emergency, where we absolutely hear that there's something going on, we won't call that escalation contact until the police have arrived, sorted out the incident, in case we're sending them into a situation that's dangerous for them. So we'll kind of wait until that's sorted. Then we'll let all the right people in the company know what's going on.
Cool. It's so thorough. we, at one point we were trying to build an external loan working system, and then we decided, because of this, there's so much nuance in case to case, we decided that we would just build loan working with our technology for like an internal situation. So if you're a security guard in a factory and you're doing a lap of honor at night, like you can check in and check out that way. But for the external stuff, it can
grow arms and legs, definitely.
Yeah. What a good phrase. What do you find are the main challenges within working within loan working?
Genuinely, the biggest thing for us is trying to get users to actually use the solution. And we can see it across the board that you'll go in, you'll do a training session, you'll set it up for success, and then there'll be a novelty period where people do use it. And then if you're not really on it, it can kind of drop off and the complacency sets in, and then you see the usage figures start to dip, and nobody's using that. So our challenge is, how can we maintain that usage to where it needs to be? And one of the things that we do struggle with is, if you don't get that kind of middle manager buy-in, if the people that are actively managing these people day to day, week to week, if they're not bought in, they're not encouraging people to use it, we can do everything from our side to try and help that, but they need to be really bought in and help with managing the usage. So that for us is the challenge, is to make sure that everybody in the organization that needs to be bought in really is, and that they're really pushing it for us as well.
You got to gamify it. You got to give people chocolate bars for every 10 check-ins.
We've got in our think tank, we've got plenty of stuff like that.
What's the wackiest one you've got?
But I mean, for me, a chocolate bar would absolutely do the trick.
We tried to, what did we have? We had a funny one at one point. We're still going to do this. So we incentivize users to wear it or to refer the product by giving them a dangerous activity as a reward. axe throwing, skydiving.
I like it. Brilliant.
And then what do you find is the biggest opportunities within the learn working space? Because I mean, you've worked in it for so long now. Like, how is there still opportunities to grow within it, basically?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the latest stat from Berg Insight is the market is growing at 10% a year. So 10% more businesses, 10% more lone workers than the year before are having solutions. So we're kind of just naturally seeing that growth. And I think that obviously the way that the technology landscape is changing is massively fueling the growth. And we can see, I mean, my vision of where I see the tech going, we can just get just the most amazing levels of protection in place when the kind of technology catches up to be able to bring it to the masses at that kind of lower budget end. So yeah, I think you can definitely see how the market will grow.
Nice. And do you find that people's opinion of surveillance technology, not that yours is just surveillance technology in particular, but like we're arguably surveillance technology too, although we have no cameras, etc.
Yeah.
Do you find that people's opinion of that has changed in the course of the last decade?
Oh, completely. I mean, Big Brother concerns are just the height of any user training session that we do, and we then kind of give it to the floor for questions. It will come up, is this tracking me? Can I get into trouble if I'm at Tesco's and I'm not supposed to be? And so I can't talk for kind of the general surveillance market, but us as a lone worker provider, we actually found what encourages usage more is if we can say point blank, this does not track you. This is not a tracking solution. So the only time that somebody's location will be reported into our kind of management platform is if the user interacts with the app. So if they set a time at risk, end a time at risk, create a fall, do an SOS, that's when we get their location. So if they are in Tesco's and it's 3:00 on a Tuesday, we won't know unless they tell us that they are there. So that kind of really helps to ease the pressure. Another thing that we did that I think has been really useful is provided every company should have their like lone working policy. We've created a lone worker solution. Let me put my teeth back in. Lone worker solution usage policy template for them. And that will basically sit as an appendix to the lone worker policy, but it puts it in black and white. It says, look, it's our responsibility as the lone worker, as the employer, to provide you with this solution. It's your responsibility as the employee to use it in this way. So it's really prescriptive. Set a time at risk when you go into somebody's house. Have your fall detection on when you're doing XYZ. Really prescriptive. And then there's a paragraph that says, this will not be used as part of any performance or disciplinary reviews. It puts it in black and white. We cannot use any data from the system to put you through any kind of disciplinary. The only reason that we may trigger something like that is if you do not use it in line with this policy. So that can just kind of help make it black and white, reassure people that the company is not allowed to take any data from the system.
Yeah, we have a very similar ongoing issue that happens that, it's sort of tracking versus productivity, and you steer completely away from productivity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hard to do that because so many tools in the business world are so focused on productivity that when anything is implemented, even if it's for safety and primarily and only safety, people still are like, no, this is it's a productivity tool. They're tracking.
It is, completely. We get that all the time. So I get the challenge. It really is. But it is for people's safety. So you've just got to hope that they get it, hope that they use it.
I really think in the course of the next 5 years, that whole what's the word I'm looking for? Like the default position where this is a tracking device will dissipate because so many technology companies, similar to what you and I are both doing, you and I and the companies are both doing, is that we're kind of changing that depiction of like this is not a tracking device, and that has complete even like in as far as like an iPhone and stuff like that. The default used to be we'll track everything, we'll give all the data, and now it's just like slowly turning on its head.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I do think if your company wants to track an employee, they will. So it really is that they've just got to know that what's the difference between what is tracking you and what's not, and knowing that our solutions are there for their safety. So yeah.
No, exactly. And do you find that within investigations of lone working, when someone has tapped the button or clicked the app, that employers generally will look at it seriously, or they only really check if it's a severe event and therefore they're going to lose their job if they don't go and do the checks?
Is that from like the management side?
From the management perspective, yeah, from like the line manager, exactly.
I mean, so what we do is we take the hard work out of it for the managers, so they can rest assured knowing that if it's coming through to our alarm receiving center, we're triaging everything, and we're doing that to a really high standard. So they will only be notified if it is a genuine emergency, and the police have been, and now we're just letting them know, or we physically cannot get hold of this person. We've had multiple attempts, so now we need you to go and follow it up. So hopefully the manager should know when they hear from us, it's pretty major. They do need to go and do something. So there's not really that ambiguity to not address it.
Yeah, nice. And do you think that the UK regulation in general for lone working protects the workers, or the reason you're building technology in this space is because there's not enough regulation and it needs assistance from third parties?
It's a really interesting question, Ronan.
Sorry.
I would like to see I'd like to see the lone worker legislation really tightened up, because I think there's a lot of room for ambiguity in what currently is there. So really, we rely on the Health and Safety at Work Act. That's kind of the main health and safety crux of where we work from. But there's not any specific legislation that says if you have lone workers, this is what you should do. So there is health and safety executive guidance on who is a lone worker, kind of what the best practice is, but there's nothing that we can really point to. So when I'm talking to a health and safety manager that's perhaps very budget conscious and has got to split their budget in so many ways, and they've got to make some hard decisions, all I can really advise is say, when they're thinking purely from a business case perspective, taking the kind of moral, ethical side out of the equation, all I can point towards is say, look, if an incident did happen, then the health and safety executive is going to come in, they're going to do an investigation, they're going to see what risk mitigation steps and solutions you've got in place, and then they're going to determine whether that was reduced to an acceptable level or not. So if you can say, yes, I put a lone worker solution in, yes, my lone worker has got fall detection on them, so we'll know if they fall immediately, they've got some proactive welfare checks in place, so I'll know if something happens within a reasonable time, then yeah, you can really say we've got really firm measures in place. If they don't have that, then whatever measures they've got to hope that health and safety executive is going to think, yes, that's enough, and can they sleep well at night knowing that they can defend what they've got. So there's a lot of gray area there. I would love it to be more firm in that area, but I mean, it is what it is, and a lot of the health and safety managers that we work with are genuinely really invested in the safety of their employees. They know what they really should be doing, and so we work with a lot of great people that it's not just a tick box exercise. It genuinely is about getting the best thing in place for their lone workers.
Yeah, I do love that about health and safety managers. Like, more often than not, they do truly care about keeping their staff safe.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you don't have to convince them to buy a product. They actually genuinely want to improve the way that they work for the sake of their employees.
Absolutely. And then it's just about convincing them that you're the right provider, isn't it? That's the kind of key thing. So that's where it's a nice space to be playing in.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess you've worked in it for so long now that you're almost seen as an expert in the space. So
I hope so.
Yeah, it's so good.
But no, that kind of expert piece, we've got so many really, really fantastic health and safety managers in the companies that we work with that we have learned a lot from them. They're very open about sharing best practice, which is really nice. I know that doesn't happen in a lot of kind of sectors. So yeah, we've got a really good base of proper experts that we can really draw from.
Nice. Yeah, you end up becoming like friends with these people because you have such a long-standing relationship with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for my final question for the day, another one to put you on the spot.
Go for it.
Do you think that artificial intelligence is going to drastically change the lone working space?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. My answer is I really hope so. And I know in terms of what our plans are, where we see it going, we are absolutely wanting to incorporate AI into this. And I think that the hardware side of things, we can see the cost of like wearable sensors going down. And if we can get it to that point where it reaches that level, we can then incorporate some, fantastic AI on an individual basis. So we can then start to really get a feel for well, what is that kind of person's vital signs on a normal day? What is it if we see something that's a bit askew, if their adrenaline goes through the roof, what's happening? So we can absolutely use that and get AI on an individual level to notice what's not right and send alerts based on that. So absolutely, I see the landscape changing. I think you're in a really interesting space where you're kind of already there with a lot of that kind of metric monitoring, but how you can apply AI at an individual level, I think that's where it's really going to make a massive difference. And when the cost of the hardware, cost of that technology comes down, we will see it, I do think, be incorporated much more into the day-to-day of like your average lone worker.
Yeah, and the proficiency of the technology just drastically improves by implementing technologies like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of, as you say, we've got to catch up with like the big brother concerns. We've got to dispel those. The cost of the technology, it's got to go down. We've got to change a lot of mindsets. But generally, I think we are driving towards a much more holistic way to approach like general employee safety when we can incorporate things like that.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. We're doing a few AI things in the background. And it
Brilliant. Well, I can't wait to see what they are, because I think, yeah, what you've got is fantastic. It is definitely a massive step forward, bringing technology into this space. So yeah, I'll be keeping my eye out on it, Ronan.
To be revealed soon.
Great.
And then lastly, if people want to get in contact with you as a result of today's discussion, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Brilliant. I would love to hear from anybody that's looking to protect their lone workers, even if it's just a chat and just kind of some advice on best practice. You can go straight to the Pick Protection website and click the contact us, or you can email info@pickprotection.com, and both of those will probably work their way through to me. So yeah, it would be lovely to hear from anybody, and yeah, delighted just to share some advice, best practice, and also show you all the different bits and bobs in our portfolio.
Cool. Perfect. Right. I mean, that's all I had for today, but thank you so much for speaking with me. Yeah, the conversation has been super interesting. I genuinely love hosting these calls because I just learn stuff that otherwise I have no access to.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for having me, Ronan. Brilliant to talk to you today. And yeah, I will absolutely be keeping an eye on what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Speak to you later then. Bye for now.
Bye.